What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here with us. This is LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. I am one of your hosts, Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White. What up?
What's going on? What's going on? This is March the 7th, 2019, man. It's trucking along, man. It's trucking along. Before you know it, it'll be debate time. Presidential debate time. Just in about 3 months.
I don't even know if I'm ready for that, bro. I don't know if I'm. It's gonna be interesting. I'm kind of anxious about that, man.
Yeah,
I'm real anxious about that, bro.
All right, yeah. We were having some technical difficulties with the mics, so just let us know that you can hear us and that we're coming across well. The audio levels are okay.
Yeah, cause it just
something didn't seem right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's not
while we were prepping.
Nah.
So yeah, we are broadcasting on. It's like a default. It's like a default something.
Because that's what we kind of. We always did Facebook first and then YouTube because that's how we started. We would go on Facebook and then we would go to YouTube second.
Yeah. Broadcasting on YouTube, broadcasting on Twitch and on Periscope Live. So everybody watching, thank you for being here with us. The last show I didn't talk about the new patrons that we had on patreon.com. For some reason, we weren't alerted to it. Usually we get an email every single time somebody decides to become a patron of ours, but for some reason that didn't happen. So I do want to acknowledge those particular individuals that are choosing to support us monetarily. and that's Rodrigo D. And Luwum. I don't know. Luwum? I guess it's Luwum. Luwum. I don't know. Whatever it is, we appreciate that support. No doubt.
We got a suggestion from Moose Gal on what should be done with the Patreon money. I'll let you read that because you're the focus of that comment, Mr. William.
Get Will a Chicago Cubs hat.
Yeah.
Well, that would take a small portion of it, but I'm still not in favor of it. Still not in favor of it.
She's trying to be like a little L Train sidekick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Kind of a little bit.
Kind of L Trainish. That's L Trainish right there.
L Train comes along towards the beginning, end of the show.
See, what L Train does is he kind of like lays low. He lays in the cut.
Yeah,
you know
but he's there at the end.
Oh no, he's there.
Fresh with some comments, man. All right. Again, we are thankful to have you all for the show. Let's get started. We have a lot on the list to discuss. All right, so yeah, this is going to be, I guess, additional information about what we talked about, or part of the thing that we talked about on Tuesday, and that's with Representative Ilhan Omar. So the Wednesday vote on a resolution denouncing anti-Semitism was pushed back after several members of Congress expressed their concern over targeting Representative Ilhan Omar. Instead, the resolution was voted on today, on Thursday, and it passed overwhelmingly. There were some changes that were made to it, and so here is Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi talking about those changes and talking about Representative Omar before the vote.
It was important for me to speak to the member first before we would proceed. She was in Africa. After I spoke to her, members had different tacks they wanted to take, some their individual statements, some thinking we should have a resolution. I thought the resolution should be enlarge the issue to anti-Semitism, anti-Islamophobia, etc., anti-white supremacist, and that it should not mention her name, and that's what we're working on, something that is one resolution addressing these forms of hatred, not mentioning her name, because it's not about her. It's about these forms of hatred.
Does she need to apologize? To that end. She hasn't apologized. Does she need to apologize?
Well, she may need to explain that she did not. It's up to her to explain, but I do not believe that she understood the full weight of the words. As I say, when you're an advocate out there, as I was, so I appreciate all the enthusiasm that comes into our Congress. I've told you that before. That was me pushing a stroller and carrying those signs. So I understand how advocates come in with their enthusiasms. But when you cross that threshold into Congress, your words weigh much more than when you're shouting at somebody outside. And I feel confident that her words were not based on any anti-Semitic attitude, but that she didn't have a full appreciation of how they landed on other people, where these words have a history and a cultural impact that may have been unknown to her.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And to that end, I know...
Did I call on him? Did you hear me?
You sure
I just thought that she was very unclear. It seems like she was trying to do her best at playing both sides in that situation, on that exchange.
She was careful with the words.
She was definitely very careful with her words, but I do think that it is interesting that they are kind of backing off the original resolution. Mm-hmm. There are probably a lot of converging factors that have caused them to do that, but regardless of whether they acknowledge it or not, the timing of the resolution is essentially connected to Ilhan Omar. Mm-hmm. Whether they acknowledge it or not, the resolution that they wanted to pass, even though it didn't have her name in it, it's attached to her based on the timing. So they created this. The substance of the original resolution and the points that were addressed in it, to me, were not indicative of anything Omar has ever said or done. And I think it was just a bad look, and it was bad timing, and they were kind of forced to back off of it because you can't separate the two. You know what I'm saying?
The timing of it was strange, and we knew that it was in reference to Ian Omar's comments. But if you wanted to do something like this, which this is non-binding, this is just a resolution. This is pretty much just Congress coming together to denounce something. Doesn't have any bite or anything like that.
Correct.
But if you actually wanted to do something about anti-Semitism or any other type of hate, or you know what, forget that. Let me just talk about anti-Semitism. Then a perfect opportunity would have been after the recent synagogue shooting.
Yes. So and so there's a lot of things that like I said before probably converged. I guess that forced Democrats to make this decision. But if you saw President Trump's tweet this morning, I don't think we have it. But it pretty much, like, it didn't say Ian's name, but Donald Trump expressed his disappointment that they didn't go forth with the resolution and said something like, it influences the targeting of Jewish people and encourages violence and stuff like that. And what Donald Trump was doing was attaching Ian to all of that. And I think that was definitely irresponsible on his part. And I think it was kind of ironic on his part, seeing as not just his party, but he himself and his vice president has done the most in regard to fomenting some sort of animosity towards Jewish people. I think remember he moved the embassy to Jerusalem, the pastor that he invited to do the little, I guess the speech or whatever, I think his name is like something Jeffries, I forgot his name, but he said that Jews are going to hell. Pence did the same thing. He invited a pastor to speak after the synagogue shooting. That's a pastor that said, that's a different pastor. And he said Jews are going to hell unless they convert to Christianity. So I just don't think Trump had any room to talk. And I think he kind of added some fuel to this fire and kind of created the need for the Democrats to kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah. Of course, the Republicans, like Donald Trump, they were very critical of the Democratic Party not just going forward and denouncing just the anti-Semitism, and not just the Republicans. There were also members of the Democratic Party that were not very happy with the added language as well. So one of them is Democratic Representative Ted Deutsch, who is Jewish, and he said, why are we unable to singularly condemn anti-Semitism? Why can't we call it anti-Semitism and show we've learned the lessons of history? This shouldn't be so hard. So, I mean, look, when we talked about this on Tuesday, just a couple of days ago, I pointed out that I didn't believe that what Ian Omar had said was anti-Semitic. Now, I did say that I understood if some people were hearing anti-Semitism. I understand if some people were hearing something that made them offensive. I understood if some people were hearing something that equated to dual loyalty and something like all of Congress is influenced or bought by Israel. Now, if they heard that, then they would have to be putting words in the mouth of Ian Omar, and I understand that. But I still, like I said, I still understand that what she said, because she was not specific, it could come off as very specific because it gives other people a chance to be like, okay, well, this is what she meant, so we're going to be offended by it, right? It gives them a chance to be offended. So I don't think, like I said, I don't think it was offensive. If you go back in her past, and we've talked about before, this is the third time which she has been criticized for being anti-Semitic. So we are dealing with some people that feel some type of hypersensitivity to some of the things that Ian Omar states. But it's not just about, like, the hypersensitivity is not just on Jewish people, because we see that in all types of people. We've talked about on this show about Bernie Sanders pretty recently because he's running for president in 2020. But people in the black community, black people have stated that he's anti-black, that he doesn't care about black people. If we're talking about reparations, they don't like his answer on reparations. They feel like it doesn't go far enough. So in turn, they feel like he is not supportive of the black community.
They write him off.
They write him off. Just a few weeks ago, after the State of the Union address, Bernie Sanders made his typical response to the State of the Union address. But then there were a lot of people that were upset. And the reason was because Stacey Abrams, a black woman, was given the official response, and they thought it was insensitive, and they were offended by Bernie Sanders giving his own. Just a few weeks ago, or maybe even months ago now, we talked about a meteorologist in the state of New York that when he was saying Martin Luther King, he flubbed it. He said Martin Luther King Jr. And there were many people, many black people that were calling for his firing, which he did get fired. There were many people that were feeling like this was racist, this was, offensive, and we couldn't stand for it. On all these types of issues, I was there saying that this is people being hypersensitive. Settle down a little bit. I don't believe this as bad as what you're making it out to be. Maybe I can understand your hypersensitivity, but when you actually look at it, you have to add information to get to the place where you're at. So that's what I think was going on right here. I don't believe that Ilhan Omar was actually stating something that was anti-Semitic.
But think about think about the optics, right? If they kind of went forward with this resolution, and your top 3 Democratic presidential candidates have come out in support of Ilhan, it just kind of looks a little off. You know what I'm saying?
It does.
Because you have Elizabeth Warren did it. Wednesday, I think. But I think she actually kind of did it loosely 2 weeks ago on Twitter when she talked about corruption in Israel and other countries being a cancer to democracy. So she kind of loosely kind of supported Ilhan just without naming her, but she came out officially on Wednesday.
Right.
And then Bernie came out.
Right.
And then, of course, your girl came out, Kamala Harris. I think she kind of probably felt prompted to do so. Once Warren and Sanders did it, she knew she had to do it because
those are the top contenders.
Those are the top
right
contenders,
now,
so they set the standard. So it just would look weird if the Democratic Party went forward and their 3 top Democratic candidates are in support of Ilhan. It just looks weird.
Right.
But that's one of the other main factors. I think another factor is the fact that Ilhan received a lot of support from Orthodox Jews. Yesterday, I think, a group called Jews Against Zionism, they gathered outside of Ilhan's office to show her support. This group included a delegation of Orthodox Jewish rabbis, and they expressed their solidarity with her.
And that doesn't mean that they're right, though. It doesn't mean that they're right. Even like my position, there are a lot of Jews that feel like what Ilhan Omar said was offensive. Okay. There's a lot of people, a lot of Jews included, that feel like what she did say was not offensive either. So there's 2 types of thoughts on this, and it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, if you're not. So we don't say that to qualify our opinion of it, but it's just the facts.
It's the facts, and it's like you don't want to erase people like that.
Right.
That's the point of bringing that up. It's like this thing is not one-sided, and I think it's being presented that way. And so you have Jewish people who are on the other side of it, who are being ignored because of the media storm. So I don't know. And I think, again, passing the resolution in the face of false narratives being presented by Republicans is just a bad look, because till this day they are still spreading the lie that she mentioned something about Jewish people having dual loyalties.
Right.
There was an article The Atlantic posted 12 hours ago that is still spreading that lie. As of 12 hours ago, she said nothing about Jewish citizens and dual loyalty. She was talking about Congress people. That's what she was talking about.
True. All right, so let's move on. The idea of universal health coverage, single-payer system in the United States, is gaining more and more support. Back in 2016, not many people were ready to publicly profess their support for it, but now in 2019, most of the Democratic candidates for president are supportive of Medicare for All type plan. So, you know what happens when it seems like the country is moving left. It's about to make some progress. It's about to embark on some change. You know what happens? Those who are supposedly on the left try to move things back to the center. And so here we have Representative Cheri Bustos, who is a Democrat from Illinois.
I'm gonna keep it mature. I'm gonna let you move on.
All right, okay.
I'm gonna keep it mature.
So Representative Cheri Bustos, who is a Democrat from Illinois, she is the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, and she recently had an interview with The Hill and expressed her skepticism over universal health coverage. Well, not specifically universal health care in general, but the idea of Medicare for all. So she told The Hill, "The Green New Deal is an idea. Medicare for all is an idea, but there are many others that are out there. What do we have? 130 million something Americans who get their health insurance through their work. The transition from what we have now to Medicare for all is just hard to conceive how that would work. You have so many jobs attached to the healthcare industry." She then added, "I think the $33 trillion price tag for Medicare for all is a little scary." Now, Representative Bustos has been elected. She has been an elective representative since 2013. She was elected in 2012. But I'm sure that you will be absolutely surprised as to which industry she came from in the private sector. I'm sure this is going to be very surprising information. She came from the private healthcare industry.
And she still currently gets money from them.
Still gets money from them. Her last year working in that field, even though, like you said, she's still getting money from them, but her last year working in the field as a private citizen, not as an elected member of Congress, she accumulated, or she earned, over $300,000 for her work. Now that's some pretty good money. I mean, that's impressive actually. That's some good living. But I think it would probably be an overreach to say that whatever connections that she did have in her time in the private healthcare industry and the remaining affiliation that she has right now, I think it would probably be a stretch to say that would probably influence the way that her mind is thinking about these policy ideas, you know?
You said it would be a stretch?
It'd probably be a stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. So you're saying that, like...
She's not influenced.
Yeah, because she's gone now.
Yeah.
So she doesn't officially work for the insurance company anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So whatever she's bringing to the table, any kind of policy ideas, that's just her. That's what she feels.
But see, okay, that's just one half.
That connection is not shaping her policy.
But that's one half of it. So if she would have just left the industry, right, and then kind of not been sponsored by them or supported by them financially at all after, what you say would actually make sense. Your sarcasm would actually be for real. Right. It wouldn't be sarcasm.
It wouldn't
make sense because, somebody working in the industry and then relinquishing their support from that industry after they stop working might point to maybe, okay, they understand how it works.
Right.
And they may proceed with their legislative suggestions based on their work in that industry. But
correct.
Since that connection is still maintained financially, we would have to suspect that like her outlook on Medicare for All is influenced by that financial connection.
All right. You turned me.
I turned you?
Yeah, you turned me, man. Yeah, you turned me.
That didn't seem too hard though.
No, it wasn't. Look, I understand. Okay, I told you she's the chair of the DCCC, right? Oh, DCCC. All right, so she's the chair of that. So of course she is concerned about 2020 and the races that are gonna be the races that the Democratic Party are gonna have to win in 2020. I believe the Republican Party, they're gonna have to flip. Well, they're gonna have to net about 20 seats to overtake the House of Representatives. So this is definitely in her mind, and I know she doesn't want to, I guess, burden these candidates with very divisive topics, right? I know, especially in the Midwest, it's what kind of Democrat is going to run in the Midwest? Policy ideas that are on the left, progressive policy ideas. It's always framed as though these type of candidates that profess those type of ideas, they can't win in those areas. So let's stick to ideas like affordable health care, health care for all, but not Medicare for all, something that we can all buy, we can all afford for our families. So she doesn't really want to focus on Medicare for all. But for me, Medicare for all should not be something that is divisive.
I was about to say, I don't even think it is divisive. I think that if you kind of just pay attention to cable news, you would think it's divisive. But across the board, Republicans and Democrats, as far as voters go, are fine with it.
True.
And
if you look at the numbers, okay, and we've looked at the numbers before, we've reported on the numbers before. So she's talking about the $33 trillion price tag for Medicare for all. So let's just assume that that number is real. There have been some studies, there have been conservative studies as well, some libertarian studies that they point the number in that $33 trillion mark, okay? So in 2016, the U.S. spent $3.4 trillion on healthcare. Healthcare costs are expected to rise. Per a study done by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, it's expected to rise all the way to $5.5 trillion per year by 2025. So if you extrapolate what we paid in 2016, if you extrapolate that over 10 years, you're going to come out to a cost that's higher than that $34 trillion mark. So that's why it should not be divisive whatsoever. It shouldn't be divisive at all. Because if you actually educate people about what this is going to do and how it's going to save money and everybody's going to be covered, then everybody should be for it.
Honestly, I just think that that's a cop-out because I guess most of those issues that kind of cause divides are, I don't know what you call those, kind of culture war wedge issues. Mm-hmm. That Medicare for All is not one of those culture war wedge issues that people tend to get.
It's not like a social issue or
it's
anything
not.
like
and
that.
I think those are most of the issues that people get divided on. I think she's just using it as an excuse to kind of, I guess, not see the reality of Medicare for All being popular across the board.
Right. She also stated in this interview with The Hill, she said, the vast majority of Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives want to see us fix the Affordable Care Act and make it functional so we can protect people with pre-existing conditions and so people have affordable health care. Do you know what this woman sounds like? She sounds like Republicans. Republicans since I can't even remember. Actually, ever since Obama was elected president and definitely ever since the ACA was passed. Republicans have been championing this repeal and replace idea, but they have never been specific about it. They have nothing to offer whatsoever. They want something great. President Trump has said this on the campaign trail and while he's been in office. First month in office. Hey, we're going to repeal it. We're going to replace it with something great. Still no ideas yet. All right. It's been years. Still no ideas. The Democratic Party, these establishment Democratic politicians like a Hillary Clinton and like Sherry Bustos, she says that we want to strengthen the ACA. We want to get to a place where, we fix these premiums. We lower the premiums. We want to get to a place where it's 100% of people that are covered. How? Well, that's where there's a lot of vague ideas being thrown at you. Nothing solidified whatsoever. Here we have a good idea like Medicare for All that Bernie Sanders really championing on the way to, along the way of running for president in 2016. Again, back then, not many people adopted his message. Now they are. We have a good idea that it looks like it's going to save us money and put us in a place where every single citizen is covered. But people want to run away from that and search for something that might be better, but we don't know what it is.
Hey, do you think that Donald Trump would have pushed that narrative as some sort of campaign promise if Bernie Sanders wasn't in the race, the whole repeal and replace? Or is that a combination of Bernie being in a race and him just trying to overturn something Obama did? Is it one or the other? Or
well, a lot of this has to do with Obama.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do with Obama. But if they're going to if they want to if they want to push back on something that Obama did, they have to sell some kind of vision to the people. So repeal and replace with something better, something affordable. Hey, that sounds great, but when it comes with no meat, when it comes with no substance, it's like it falls on deaf ears. You
would think he would have kind of been pushing harder for a better replacement for the ACA. I guess just as hard as he's been pushing for a wall. You would think that that kind of campaign promise would have come first.
Yes, and we know that as a part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they did away with the individual mandate. Right? So, no, it hasn't been completely stripped. The ACA is still here. But if you're celebrating the fact that you got rid of the individual mandate, how about like actually give something to the people, like an actual idea, actually an actual policy that is going to do something better than what the ACA did. We have problems with the ACA, but it was good in several areas. It was a benefit to a lot of people. It got a lot more people insured. It didn't change the game whatsoever, but it did some positive things. What the Republicans and President Trump want to do is just strip it all away, and with promises of something better, but with nothing guaranteed at all. Sherry Bustos, again, like I said, I know that she's the chair of the DCCC, and she doesn't want to burden these candidates that are going to be running in 2020 with something that is divisive. But Medicare for All, that's not it. That's not something that's divisive. Once you explain to people what it is, how it's going to help, how everybody's going to be able to be covered and use that health coverage, I think whatever support that we have for it right now in 2019,
it's just going to grow.
It's only going to grow
because
in 2020 and beyond.
Because that's not something that only benefits a certain group of people.
Right.
It kind of benefits everybody.
Right. All right, so let's move on. Oh boy.
Why are you saying oh boy?
Oh
man?
boy.
Why are you saying oh boy?
Yo girl.
My girl.
Yo girl, man.
Why she gotta be my girl, man?
She ain't my girl. My girl. No, anyway. On Wednesday, Judge Andrew Napolitano appeared on Fox News with Harris Faulkner to discuss the House Judiciary Committee's investigation into President Donald Trump's financial dealings. This was done just a few days ago. Representative Nadler, I believe, he sparked this investigation and a request for documentation from 81 different people and entities. And so, of course, this would get people at Fox a little bit uncomfortable. Now, Judge Napolitano, he has been somewhat of a straight shooter on Fox News around this topic.
But why is he a straight shooter? Because he has kind of experience in regard to law.
Yes.
So he almost that's kind of where his mindset is. So his commentary is going to be based on that. He's straightforward.
Yes.
Like he states things based on the law. Yeah. So that's how he offers his commentary. Like I've seen him be biased, but if they bring him on to talk about legal matters, that's where he's coming from.
Straight line. So in this interview that we're going to show you a portion of, you can tell that Harris Faulkner is trying to do her best to protect Donald Trump.
Collusion, which we know is not a crime, it's really conspiracy. The Trump campaign accused of colluding, conspiring with Russia.
Right.
Right? What does this have to do with that?
Probably nothing. But Michael Cohen, whether you believe him or not, gave a field for the Democrats to harvest last week. And in much of that field, he backed it up with documents.
Well, he's bringing them to the Hill.
Right. It
That's
doesn't take very
today.
much to start a congressional
Yeah, but I've heard you say you don't even believe this man.
Well, he has a lot of credibility problems, but when he backs it up...
He's a criminal liar.
Yeah, but a lot of liars, after they're caught, tell the truth because they know the consequences.
Right. It's double jeopardy at that point, right? That's probably not the right word. I'm just trying to...
It's not double jeopardy. You're being very clever. I don't want to be prosecuted for perjury again because I'm already about to serve 3 years
Right,
for perjury.
okay.
Why would I volunteer to lie under oath? This is a preliminary request for documents. Some of these people may not even have the documents.
If the president doesn't hand these over, what happens?
Well, that's dangerous because then we get to a subpoena. You can avoid, you can forget about, you can throw out a request for documents. You can't do that with a subpoena. There are consequences to doing that with a subpoena. Now, there's 81 entities on here. The Department of Justice can only defend the federal agencies. They can't defend the human beings that are on there. They all have to go out and get lawyers. Their lawyers are going to tell them, you disregard this document request, a subpoena is going to come, and you can't disregard a subpoena.
Gosh, it just seems like there's got to be a better way to adjudicate these things.
You know,
I don't even think that's what we're doing.
Look,
we're not adjudicating anything.
Some of the motivation may be to harm him politically, but much of the motivation is to expose to the public what the public has the right to know.
And that would be political then, right?
Well, it would allow the public to make a political judgment. Is the president telling the truth?
That's interesting. I see how she tried to direct the conversation at the beginning.
There was a lot of distraction and deflection.
These cable news hosts are very good at changing the topic when the pre-established narrative for the segment starts to crumble. She tried to redirect the conversation to the Mueller investigation after Napolitano explained to her, like, yeah, they can request these documents. They have, you know, the grounds to do so. Like he explained, they're private citizens within the body of government who have to defend themselves with their own lawyers. So what the obstruction that Trump is trying to do, because he said these people will not cooperate,
Right.
That's not up to him. He has no power on whether they cooperate or not. They have to, and there's going to be a penalty if they do not comply, because these inquiries and subpoenas are issued primarily because of the testimony of
Michael Cohen.
Yes, and your boy was back yesterday.